Me and my mom haven't been home for 3 days. He was left to his own for 3 whole days, and that's it. Of course he can't take out the recycling. Then this paper towel roll he won't replace. My mom says to just leave it so he has to clean it all up, because I have a theory he left this ginormous mess to punish us for not being home with him for days. So I think he did this intentionally to try to make us have to clean up after him.
Let me show you the grocery list I sent him. Do you notice anything? I thought it would be simple. He called me 6 times to ask me where things were.
I have a lot of experience with today's video topic, unfortunately. Not only have I witnessed my father weaponize his incompetence against my mother, but I've also had him do the same to me. I like cleaning and I prefer to do it my way because I'm a control freak. I can admit that. But doing the same monotonous and sometimes back-breaking task without a thank you or any semblance of help weighs on you. It's not unreasonable to ask someone to pick up some duties around a household and to do it correctly. When I had surgery this past year, it prevented me from doing most of the cleaning around the house. I had to practically beg my parents to help me keep the house clean. Now my mom, she's a different story, but my dad, he always has the same excuses. Of course, the basic, I'll do it later, only to never do it, forcing me to pick up the slack. Then there's the, I don't know how to do it the way you want it, it'd just be easier if you did it. The obvious, do a terrible job on purpose so they'll never ask me for help again. The, ask so many questions, it just makes more sense for me to do it myself. And how could I forget the, I helped you, yet you still have a problem with it. I'm never helping you again. For the past couple of years, weaponized incompetence has become an overused term, becoming a new word in the pathologizing dictionary online. Yet actual weaponized incompetence is not only common, but it's also a very real form of emotional abuse. It can show up in many different ways, but at its core, weaponized incompetence is a form of control one person commands over another, forcing them to carry an impossible burden in a relationship, making them feel crazy when they complain about a very real kind of manipulation they're experiencing. In a capitalist world where our household labor, largely produced by women, is unpaid and undervalued, weaponized incompetence is anything but funny. It's an abuse tactic to keep this burden weighing on the oppressed and exploited, the women, people of color, and LGBTQ people who are forced to pick up the slack of the incompetent, or as I like to call them, the incontinent. That was a poop joke, if you couldn't tell. Let's just get into the video. Obviously, I have to start this video off by giving a dictionary definition of this word. Psychology Today gives it a pretty good definition. Weaponized incompetence, also called strategic incompetence, is when someone knowingly or unknowingly demonstrates an inability to perform or master a certain task, thereby leading others to take on more work. I'll cover both sides of the coin today, genuine ignorance and malicious incompetence, because they're a lot more similar to one another than you may think. Online, the conversation is mostly focused on heterosexual monogamous relationships, where the man is incompetent, leading his female partner to pick up the slack around their house or with their children. And while this is the most common way it shows up in life, it certainly isn't the only way. For example, if you have coworkers at your job, you've likely noticed someone who uses this tactic to get out of doing their job. It's the same concept, except it isn't always gendered in the workplace, and the relationship between the two parties is obviously different. Personally, I don't understand people who act like this. I pretty recently started working at a part-time job where I have to work with a lot of other people. As a new person, I want to know what I'm supposed to do, and I get embarrassed if I can't do it. I want to be shown what I have to do and be able to replicate it. Why would I place an unequal burden on my coworkers when I should be willing and able to do what I need to do? Unfortunately, most people are not nearly as introspective and emotionally intelligent as me. Yet, even in the workplace, this invisible burden is often placed on the marginalized workers, like the women or queer people there. Author Melanie Ho spoke to the HuffPost about something she calls shadow management, which is when a supervisor neglects to support and develop their staff, and a colleague ends up filling in the gap by assuming extra mentoring or unofficial management responsibilities. Although this can occur with any gender, it's more often a male manager neglecting his staff and a female manager or other employees who's picking up the slack, Ho said. It's simply expected that women play this caretaking role, while men can be excused as not good at that and permitted to focus elsewhere. Although anyone from any background can exhibit this kind of behavior, it is true that the most common perpetrators are cisgender men. And there is a reason for that. Men aren't raised to see and treat mess like women do. I see it as a trade-off for me living here rent-free. I keep the house clean because I like doing it, and also so my parents don't have to worry about it. Now it's expected of me that I clean the house. And while I recognize that I kind of put myself in this position, I can't help but notice the unequal way my brother and I have been treated by my parents, specifically when it comes to chores, because there's a lot of other inequality there. When my brother lived here as an adult, he didn't cook, he didn't do his own laundry, he didn't even clean his own room. Yet, if there are dishes in the sink, it's just expected that I'm going to take care of it. Well, maybe I don't want to fucking clean the dishes day in and day out, all by myself. I wasn't raised as a man. I was raised to see a mess and to clean it, to be the caretaker. My brother, on the other hand, was not expected to do any of that, even as a fully capable adult living at home. It's not like we have a natural responsibility as children to keep our parents' house clean. But when only one shoulders the burden and the other one never has to step up, it's incredibly frustrating. When men have bedrooms that look like the inside of a prison cell toilet, it's forgiven. After never getting scolded for living in literal squalor, they grow up to not see serious mess as a problem that they should take part in cleaning. Hence why married women are coming home after a week-long vacation to a kitchen that literally has mold growing in the sink. The conversation reported on a 2023 study, wherein they used the affordance theory in psychology to examine how women see mess versus men. Affordance theory, as the article describes, is when we look at objects and situations and see possibilities for actions. The researchers said that the study suggests men and women are trained by society to see different possibilities for action when they look at mess in their home. It continues, the couple are attuned differently to affordances for domestic tasks. Affordance theory can help explain why women shoulder a disproportionate amount of housework and childcare even when they work full-time. If Jill is more sensitive to affordances for domestic tasks, she's more likely to notice the dishes need washing up and be more motivated to do the task. It is likely Jack won't even notice the disparity in workload. If you don't see the counter as to be wiped, you are less likely to notice when it has been wiped. This double whammy of inequity and invisibility takes a considerable mental toll on women and puts a serious strain on relationships. Partners who live together frequently have disagreements about housework, likely linked to this core difference in how they view mess. According to a new survey from Yelp, 80% of people living with a partner have disagreements about housework, with 1/5 of that number saying they disagree often. The survey, which collected 2,000 American adults who live with a partner and was split evenly between men and women, found that the most common disagreements revolved around when to do the housework, 53%, how to do it, 50%, and who should do it, 48%. 61% said that they'd clean the home again after their partner did. You see, the core of weaponized incompetence is actually incredibly sad. While on one hand, you have men who could do their own laundry, but pretend not to in order to get out of helping their partner, on the other hand, you have men who genuinely were never taught to operate a washing machine. They never had to learn. To me, weaponized incompetence is a vicious and intentional form of emotional abuse. I don't think ignorant men who weren't taught how to cook or clean are intentionally trying to sabotage their partners. Yet it also needs to be said that it shouldn't be their partner's responsibility to become their mom. As Matthew Frey sees it, the problem isn't ignorance. A person can't know what they don't know. But there is something very wrong with willful ignorance. Willful ignorance is weaponized ignorance, he said. Unintentional or not, when men lay the burden of household chores, taking care of the kids, and whatever other feminine tasks they were never expected to do onto their female partners, it only greatens the load of unpaid and unappreciated labor they're expected to do. Even today, women still shoulder most, if not all, of the household burdens. While on average, men have slowly begun to do more tasks than they did in, say, the 50s, there is still a huge disparity. Plus, the average is not the same as the median. A 2019 article said, new research carried out by domestic appliance manufacturer Indesit suggests that 76% of women are still doing the vast majority of household chores, the HuffPost reported. According to a McKinsey poll conducted with leanin.org, since the onset of the pandemic, mothers are more than 3 times as likely as fathers to shoulder the majority of household and parenting labor. And they're 1.5 times more likely than dads to spend an extra 3 or more hours on chores and childcare. Even as recently as 2025, the NIH was reporting that women still do more domestic tasks than their male counterparts. Although household appliances have revolutionized the way we now clean, they haven't minimized how much we clean. As modern appliances like washing machines took the place of laborious tasks, cleanliness standards only increased, meaning the amount of time women specifically spend cleaning has roughly stayed the same as the decades have gone on. For years, men have claimed the place of breadwinner in the home, therefore placing all of the household responsibilities onto the unemployed woman. Yet even today, with more women being the primary earners in their homes, they are still expected to have another full-time job on top of it, an expectation that the men who were in their shoes never had to meet. A 2018 survey found that only about 20% of full-time employed men do any housework, such as cleaning or laundry, at all, compared with 49% of full-time employed women. Working women spend nearly twice as much time as men, 0.7 versus 0.32 hours per day, caring for children or other household members. What's sick is that this unpaid and unequal labor is what keeps our capitalist system going. For one thing, women and those who are AFAB literally do reproductive labor for free. They give birth to and raise the next generation of workers. On top of that, they still do almost all of the domestic tasks that prepare those workers for work, that let them decompress after work. Tasks that they don't have to spend doing themselves since the unpaid laborers are already doing it for them. Paid work gets recognition. It is real work. Yet the most common, exhausting, and tedious work is done for free and is invisible to those who fight against capitalism for social justice. Capitalism is built on the backs of unpaid workers all over the world. Most of these unpaid workers are women, and most of the unpaid work takes place in the home. Domestic labor does two things. It reproduces humans, thus labor power, and it prepares workers to go to work daily. Canada estimated in 1994 that the value of housework, if it were paid, would be $318 billion. But we probably think of ourselves as workers only when we work outside of the home. I personally am sick of doing invisible labor that gets no recognition, not even a thanks, and certainly not a paycheck. I'm sick of having to take care of myself, others, and my work while still not being able to live. Women, and especially women who live with male family members or partners, consistently perform the household labor, now being exploited in and outside of the home. Unpaid labor is a taboo subject because acknowledging it would undermine one of the most important ideological foundations of capitalism. The owning class does not want to admit that they can only prosper by not paying for 75% of the true work of the planet. You see, the work of the household worker is what sustains the rest of the exploits. Writer Tithi Bhattacharya once said, "Capitalism acknowledges productive labor for the market as the sole form of legitimate work, while the tremendous amount of familial as well as communitarian work that goes on to sustain and reproduce the worker, or more specifically her labor power, is naturalized into non-existence." Weaponized incompetence isn't just some TikTok pathologizing trend. It's another way to continuously exploit the marginalized, except this time, it's the ones they're closest to doing the exploiting. It's incredibly insidious, and not something that should just be thrown around. Ava Swindler wrote on invisible exploitation, as she defines how capital extracts value beyond wage labor. When women cook meals for free or raise children at home rather than send them to daycare or care for ill household members, all as unpaid labors of love, they provide direct economic subsidies to their socially necessary wage. If workers had to pay for those services, their wages would need to be far higher. Similarly, if women or other household members grow food in kitchen gardens or fields, or repair houses and make their own clothes, as they often do in the global south, this subsidy, combined with variations in living standards and labor conditions, enables even lower wages, and therefore higher profits. To use Maria Mai's formulation, this unseen labor represents a submerged bulk of an iceberg, of which formal wage work forms only the tip. Reddit users write of their experiences with weaponized incompetence. My grandfather used to practice weaponized incompetence back before I was born. He went to do laundry one day, in the days before liquid detergent, and put the whole box of powder in instead of a scoop, flooded the basement with suds. Grandma wouldn't let him do laundry again. He pulled the same stunt with the dishwasher and flooded the kitchen with suds once too. Another person talks of their dad. My dad doesn't put groceries away or do the dishes because he doesn't know where anything goes, so my mom has to do everything, including cooking all the food. My parents built the house in the mid-70s and have lived there ever since. Everything has gone in the same place in that kitchen for the last 45 years. One woman writes about her ex. My ex kept leaving his dirty boxers on chairs. When I confronted him about it, he said, "I don't know where the dirty clothes box is." He had been living in my house for 2 fucking years. Often in these kinds of dynamics, the woman also ends up displaying a kind of weaponized incompetence. They might expect their husband to do all the manly things around the house, fixing a door, cleaning the garage. While they could very well do these tasks themselves, they too were raised to believe that these kinds of things were not what they should be doing as women. Leave it to your husband. Even then, the masculine chores that the man is always expected to do are not the routine, day-to-day things that are necessary to keep the people in the household happy and healthy. Rather, men are expected to do one-off, manly things like mowing the lawn or changing a tire, while women are, more often than not, left with the meal prepping, the cleaning, the child rearing, the stuff that you can't take a break from doing. Is every mistake a man makes weaponized incompetence, though? No, of course not. And here's where men get upset. I found some Reddit posts from self-proclaimed men's rights advocates arguing against the myth of weaponized incompetence. Let's take a look, shall we? A poster in r/left-wing male advocates argues that by labeling men as incompetent when they have trouble doing household chores, women are furthering a gender divide, implicitly saying that men can't do any household chores right because they're men. He goes on to say that there is little empirical evidence that men are overwhelmingly, legitimately weaponizing their inability to do certain tasks, saying, "A study published in Gender and Society suggests that traditional gender roles and the lack of early domestic training contribute more to inequality than any deliberate effort by men to avoid work." He continues, "By focusing on weaponized incompetence as a male problem, feminists may reinforce a gendered stereotype that men are inherently less capable in domestic matters. This creates a cycle where men are constantly expected to fail or avoid these tasks, reinforcing the idea that women are better suited for caregiving roles." I can see all the validity in his points. But then he says, "Studies show men perform equally well in domestic tasks when properly trained, debunking the idea of inherent incompetence. Men dominate high-skill, high-stress fields like engineering, surgery, and construction, hardly signs of incompetence. Weaponized incompetence is often just a misinterpretation of different standards, not proof of male incapability." The problem is right in your words. The problem is that they aren't trained. They aren't taught to clean like women do. They aren't taught to clean as much as women do. That's not a good thing. I don't think most people who have talked about this concept have implied that men can't do these things because they're men. Rather, they don't do them because they're men. I'm also not sure what men's domination in high-stress fields has to do with whether or not they avoid doing household tasks. I do think that people often misuse this term. But to act like men not doing a lot of household tasks isn't a big issue is ignorant and offensive. Often the different standards is that the woman wants the sink to not be filled with moldy dishes, but the man doesn't care. The poster also tries to make the point that liberal women want conservative men, men who are traditionally masculine, but don't want the burden that comes with dating a conservative man, like him not doing any of the household chores. I mean, seriously, how was this posted in a left-wing subreddit? Shouldn't we be trying to create a future where a man can be both a lumberjack and a person who can use a fucking washing machine? You acknowledge that there is an issue with men not doing enough household tasks, yet you don't seem concerned at all with fixing it. Instead, you use the pathologizing of the term as a front in order to ignore the unequal burden. Of course, this is the internet. People use the term wrong all the time, towards men who have genuine disabilities, towards relationships that they only know the surface level of, towards men in general who they do not know. Women in relationships with men surely use the term incorrectly in order to put down their partners. Yet is the misuse of this term really more common than the amount of men who genuinely do this? A therapist on TikTok explained the whole overuse and misuse of the word really well, saying that often people shame the women in the relationship by expecting her to do better for herself. You're just pointing out with this insinuation that if she was stronger, if she pushed more, if she had better boundaries, she could, what, make him do more? Davis said. That's not how that dynamic works. Davis says the true nature of weaponized incompetence is not appreciated by the public in general because what they assume it is a man taking advantage and a woman not standing up for herself. We're talking about a man who gives just enough so that the withdrawal of that support would make that woman's life even more miserable, Davis explained. But if she pushes for more, he just threatens to remove the little he's already doing. He is quite literally the one with all the leverage in the relationship because of this. When you address or highlight a woman in this situation with things like, "You shouldn't put up with this girl," you're basically pinning the perceived faults of the man on that woman. You can say that you're being supportive, encouraging all day long, but all you're doing is highlighting this woman's humiliation for the entire internet. I do think that more often than not, examples of weaponized incompetence are not men intentionally being malicious. They're just doing what has been expected of them their entire lives. Nothing. Or the bare minimum. A psychologist also put it well. Clinical terms meant to describe very specific behaviors surrounding sensitive topics can become harmful when social media creates a platform for overgeneralizations, says Dr. Amelia Kelly. While it is beneficial to learn early on what warning signs to look out for in relationships, it is also important not to set up a negative expectation that every misstep in a relationship is full-blown abuse. Another male Redditor commented on the previous post, describing his ex as using cleaning as a form of punishment. He concludes, "While I'm sure that there are guys who do weaponize incompetence, I have a sneaking suspicion that most women are weaponizing the idea of weaponized incompetence to justify being abusive. Yet, if a woman is in a relationship with a man who doesn't help her around the house, and when he does it extremely poorly, is it her fault for getting upset about that? Is she an abuser for expecting her husband to equally help her or to see the mess the same way she does? If you're genuinely concerned about the split of household tasks being unjust, you should speak to your partner, not humiliate them on the internet and belittle them when you might not have the full picture. But if these women have set expectations and their male partners still don't take responsibility, that is a genuine problem. Moreover, and I cannot say this enough, it is not okay that men do not automatically see something moldy in the fridge and think, I should clean this out. The issue is not going to be solved on a person-by-person basis. This is a systemic issue. Again, an adult partner should not have to teach their adult partner how to do basic life tasks. Men should be allowed to make mistakes and be people, and get the basic human dignity of having a conversation with their partner when they've done something wrong. I do think that there are women who will never be happy with what their partners do. I also think that heterosexual couples need to grow the fuck up and learn how to communicate with one another. At the same time, There is nary a woman who doesn't have a story of genuine weaponized incompetence from a man. I've lived with one who does this all the time. Yet, I also live with a woman who is never happy with what he does. Is it his fault because he got away with doing this shit his whole life? Is it her fault because she doesn't want to put up with the same thing over and over again? Women still shoulder the burden. So while yes, we should discuss the improper and weaponized use of this word, let's not act like the way household labor is performed is not systemically unequal and exploitative. One woman commented under a different post in the left-wing male advocate subreddit. My husband folds clothes inside out. If I want them done my way, I do it myself. I'm not going to sit here and train him on how to fold clothes. He knows how to fold clothes. He's not disabled. He just doesn't care to write them before folding them because for him, he would write them before putting them on anyway. We just differ in when that part should be done. This isn't weaponized incompetence. This is a difference of opinion. Do you prefer to write clothes before you wear them or before you put them away? I've been told he does this intentionally to annoy me into doing the laundry. I think he does it because that's how he's always done it and he doesn't care about the same things I do. For this woman, I think it's fine that she's okay with taking up laundry because her husband doesn't do it in the way she wants it done. But I also think that if your partner, man or woman, wishes for you to do something in a different way, shouldn't you have that conversation with them and hope that they change it because they care about you? Is a woman being a nagging bitch if she wants the clothes folded in a certain way and her husband never does it, even when she's asked him to? More importantly, does her husband do anything else around the house? Does he do it in a way that they can both agree on it being satisfactory? I see men arguing about the use of this term, trying to make the point that most examples of weaponized incompetence online are just men who have made mistakes, not men who are maliciously avoiding doing anything they deem as feminine and lesser than them. Remember the ketchup challenge from a few years ago? Women would intentionally squirt ketchup on the counter and then ask their male partners to clean it up, filming them in the process and posting it to the whole world on TikTok. It was immature and offensive, humiliating your partner for his inability to clean up a liquid mess on the counter. It's not good that some of these men were incapable of efficiently cleaning up the spill, but maybe instead of embarrassing your inept partner, you talk to them about it. And if you really don't want to teach your adult partner how to clean up a spill, then don't. All of this comes back to the fact that men were able to get out of performing household tasks for their entire upbringings. Some of them could figure out how to complete them efficiently. Some of them can, but they weaponize this gender inequality against their partners to keep the status quo. They don't try and they don't learn. Others genuinely have no idea what the fuck they're doing because they were never taught how or expected to do those chores, but they're willing to fix it. Yet again, should it be a partner's responsibility to shoulder another burden? This time, the burden of teacher. It's why this is cyclical. A woman tries to teach her husband what to do, but he can't or won't do it. She gives up and just decides to do it herself, scolding him in the process. And now she's left right where she was in the beginning, all on her own. The problem is very often that the wife micromanages her husband and resorts to nagging and yelling to get her way, which puts him off from wanting to do anything for her. After all, why even try when no matter what you do, you're going to be wrong and get yelled at for it? Why try when he's going to fail no matter what though? Why try when he cannot even see that he isn't helping? Is the wife really the nagging bitch because her husband can't do the chores she has been expected to do her whole life? Yeah, there's women who expect too much. Yet none of the examples I gave today were women expecting too much. Is it really too much to expect that your own husband should know where the plates go? Or that he should see a clear problem when there are 30 bowls piled up in the sink? This isn't about men ultimately. Everybody should be allowed to be clumsy. Everybody should be allowed to be forgetful. Everybody should be allowed to make mistakes. And it feels kind of sexist to say women should give men this sort of grace when women do not get it, especially moms. A clumsy, forgetful, mistake-making mom is a social pariah in most US communities. A clumsy, forgetful, mistake-making dad is just dad. You need only turn on the TV to see the difference. This ends up being one of those really common scenarios where patriarchal expectation imposed on women get turned back onto men, and then men get uncomfortable and focus on just their problem. But this is an everybody problem, and the everybody solution is always the same. Smash the patriarchy. Actual weaponized incompetence is not something that can be fixed with a conversation. It is a form of emotional abuse in order for someone to maintain control over their subordinate, whether it's their partner or their coworker. But there is an opposite side to the term. The people who are genuinely just having a hard time or don't understand. If you believe someone in your life is unintentionally doing this, then communicate with them. If you sense you and your partner are not on the same page, as in if he doesn't think that this is a big deal, Dr. Sharon Weltfried says to explain to your partner why what you are requesting is important to you. If you want to make sure that your partner understood what you said, you can ask your partner what they heard. Clarify if there are misunderstandings. After your partner speaks, let your partner know that you heard what was said and understand. For example, you can say something like, "It makes sense that you feel this way and that this is important to you." A woman isn't a nagging bitch for wanting something done in a certain way, and a man isn't inherently stupid and incapable because he was never taught to vacuum. Yet still, there are plenty of people who abuse their supposed ineptitude, like men who intentionally sabotage their female partners in order to maintain the gender hierarchy that they were brought up in. Women and other marginalized people still do invisible, unpaid, and unappreciated labor every single day. While a cisgender man might not see himself slacking, his partner does. And maybe it shouldn't be up to her to make him notice. All right, that's it for me, and that's it for this video. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought about it down below. Do you think that women are annoying, nagging bitches? And do you think men are stupid, incompetent males? Let me know. Comment down below anything you want to comment down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you like me, you can subscribe. I post videos about whatever I feel like talking about, so if that sounds like your thing, make sure to subscribe and turn on notification bell so you know when I post a video. You may not be able to see when I post a video if you don't turn your notifications on. I'd like to give a special shout out to my Patreon members who are part of my Alpha and Delta tiers. Thank you to Lisbeth Ruiz and Shula Cooper. I truly appreciate your continued support. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of my Patreon members. If you want to become a member, the link will be down below. Anyway, I really hope you all enjoyed this video, but more importantly, I really hope I see you in the next video. You better be there. You better be there, right? You gonna watch my next video or not? Come on. Okay, bye.